And you'd be like, okay, so it's just a drone, man. What's the big deal? The problem is that this thing is up there. These things are up there every night, going to the exact same positions, moving around, doing things once in a while. Like, I haven't quite figured out which ones, down there, while I was there, I couldn't really figure out which ones consistently would move and which ones wouldn't. There were some that you could there were some that were consistent with their movement. There were some that were like, I could never tell which ones were going to be the ones that just would take off and go doing things. But you'd just be sitting there staring, watching, and be like, yeah, that star's kind of whatever. And then it would just zoom off after just sitting there for an hour or so. You come back out and have another cigarette, and it's still in the same spot roughly. And then it just will take off to the left, zoom several feet to the left, and just completely disappear. And no streak like a shooting star or something like that. No. And nobody really knows what to think of this. Nobody really knows. Everybody just, we keep calling it quote unquote drone activity because that's the best way to describe it. Whatever it is, they're way up there and they have no red and, green or any of the other running lights. These are, I'm being real. It looks as if they're trying to purposely look like a star, as if that is the intention. That is supposed to be the point. And so everybody starts, you go to, over a couple of towns and they're seeing the same things at night, different ones and all that kind of stuff, kind of the same consistent ones, some of the bigger, brighter ones. It just depends on how far you go. But even up here at night, it's the same thing. I talk to buddies that live in Australia. I talk to buddies that live in Holland. I talk to buddies that live in Germany, France, Alaska. Nobody can tell what the hell these things are. There are crashes happening. Things coming down at night. Explosions being heard up in the sky, above the cloud layer that nobody can figure out. And these are all, you could say, oh, well, you're just... I'm not the one reporting it. I'm not the one that's having these things happen. I mean, I've had some things I, like I said, noticed here around where I'm at and where I was. But overall... Again, I would point out, I didn't tell my government to sit there and waste, months, almost years now, going over this same thing, that they'll admit that there's something going on in our skies.